In today's video, we're exploring the future of Filip Forsberg in Nashville. Could he be on his way out of town? Will he stay with the Predators? We'll discuss the possibilities. Plus, Patrick Marleau has announced his retirement. We have some more injury updates and another fine from the Stanley Cup playoffs. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned today, we have a lot of NHL news and some free agent rumors to look at. First up, I want to start with the news that longtime NHL veteran and all-time games played leader Patrick Marleau has officially announced his retirement. Now, of course, I believe it was late last week, we had talked about the news that there was going to be a press conference from Marleau today on Tuesday, and we suspected that was more than likely what it was going to be. Of course, he also penned an article in the Players Tribune as well, announcing that after all those years of playing hockey and becoming the NHL's all-time leader in games played, he's calling it a career. After not playing this past year, really wasn't a big surprise, but he had one heck of a long career, very productive career. He was very durable, rarely missed action, had a long streak, of course, of consecutive games played. For the longest time was a pretty consistent, what they used to call like the 30-70 guy, so 30 goals, 70 points, or in some cases more. So obviously he had a real solid run, real solid career. The only thing missing from his resume really is a Stanley Cup championship. Otherwise, he's accomplished a whole heck of a lot. So certainly would like to wish Patrick Marleau the best of luck in retirement, and hopefully he's involved with the game in some capacity here moving forward. We also were able to confirm today as well by the NHL announcing the Vezina Trophy nominees. So the finalists for the top goaltender in the NHL this past season, of course, was Rangers goalie Igor Shesterkin, UC Saros from the Nashville Predators, and Jacob Markstrom from the Calgary Flames. Of course, we discussed that briefly yesterday. Kevin Weeks had put that out, but where it wasn't announced by the NHL yet, I just want to wait and get that confirmed first. But certainly, not a huge surprise either way. Jamie Benn's been fined yet again for the game last night between the Dallas Stars and Calgary Flames. He had a dangerous trip, so he's fined $5,000, maximum allowed in the CBA against the Flames forward Trevor Lewis. That's a couple of times now that he's been fined in that series. Of course, we also have word that it's very unlikely after the departure of Barry Trotz on Long Island. According to beat writer Andrew Gross, he says that it's very unlikely that the goalie development coach Mitch Korn likely was going to be leaving as well. But if he does go, it's going to be on his own accord. He has not been dismissed or anything like that. But not a huge surprise, really. He's been connected to Barry Trotz for an extremely long time. He's bounced around from team to team with him through the NHL and came with him from Nashville to Washington to Long Island. So certainly not a big surprise if he leaves. I don't know sure if he's going to wait and see what Barry Trotz ends up doing next. We know there's all kinds of interest from around the league. All kinds of teams are going to be jumping out to inquire. It's going to be a matter of what Barry Trotz wants to do. Does he want to coach again right away, or does he not? Because there will be ample opportunity, and if he does, then maybe his longtime goalie coach goes with him. I guess we'll have to wait and see on that front. Speaking of that situation as well, there is a lot of talk about why and what led to the dismissal of Barry Trotz. Certainly one bad season shouldn't be a lot, but I guess if you take a look at the history of Lou Lamoriello as a general manager, Barry Trotz, the last into 4 years as a head coach, is actually a pretty good time compared to a lot of the coaches that he's dealt with over the years. During Lamoriello's run as a GM, he's dealt with 19 different head coaches, not counting the couple of times that he named himself head coach. You take that out of the equation, 19 separate coaches, and outside of Jacques Lemaire, which had a long run, which was well over 300 and some games, Barry Trotz, I believe, is the second longest tenured coach under him as general manager. So, we know that Lou is kind of a guy who likes to make decisions on his own, and certainly has an old school way of doing things. That's certainly fair to say. But at this point, it seems like the Islanders, we know, had a real tough year, like a lot of teams did in the last couple of years, have certainly had its strain on a lot of people just in general, not just in hockey or in sports, but life overall, due to the pandemic and all the restrictions we've all had to deal with. Life has not been the same, and obviously when the season got tough last year with a long road trip to start the season, they had a bad COVID outbreak, and Benny are saying that essentially those kind of little cracks in the relationships, that little things that you can usually deal with, kind of get more blown in proportion, more strain, and the relationships overall were not quite the same. It was already, rumored that Trotz and Lamoriello, for the most part, were pretty cohesive, but, might have had a few differences of opinion, which is pretty normal, really, in the hockey world, but obviously things could have got amplified. There are some people that think that Matthew Barzal might have had some influence here as well, because we know that with Trotz being such a defensive-minded coach, that it wasn't the most cohesive for the style of play for Barzal, and that he wasn't always thrilled, and that they sometimes butted heads. But we'll probably never really know, essentially, but I think it's just a culmination of a lot of things, and it's just time for a new voice, according to Lou behind the bench. But I'm not sure that there's really a lot that we're going to be able to confirm as to what kind of led to that decision, except for the fact that it's just been, it wasn't something that just happened overnight. It was something that was probably working its way up after a real tough year, and it's just time for them to kind of separate and go their separate ways. It's kind of what a lot of people are coming to the conclusion of here now as well. We also were able to confirm today that Vegas Golden Knights' new acquisition and top center Jack Eichel played the last 6-7 weeks of the season with a broken thumb. Now, I know at one point there was an injury to Eichel, and I know a lot of people were concerned that he might be out long term, but yet he never missed any time, which was quite surprising, because I know he blocked a shot and it looked like it was a hand or wrist injury of some sort, but then he came back and he played and never missed time, and it was obviously quite surprising. I think it's fair to say it probably hampered his ability to play, because he wasn't as productive as usual after that, but certainly dealt with a lot this year, and he played through a broken thumb. So it's kind of, not to give him an excuse per se, but it certainly does explain some of the I guess some of his play down the stretch here. Of course, we know Mark Stone was dealing with probably 60-70% back as well. So as much as they tried to play through injuries to make the playoffs, and they were close, certainly had a big impact on the outcome. Now, of course, in the playoffs, we have 4 games on the schedule tonight. All games are series going into Game 5 with a 2-2 series. So it should be a very interesting evening. No eliminations yet, at least for tonight, which is going to be, to only have one team out after last night is probably something you don't really see. Usually you get more series end in 4 or 5 games early on, but we've got obviously the Leafs and Lightning go tonight. We've got the Bruins and the Hurricanes, and of course you get the Oilers and the Kings, as well as the Wild and Blues, all going tonight. Of course, we saw the Avalanche eliminate the Predators last night, so the Preds are the first team out. 5-3 win last night in a 4-0 series sweep. So certainly, as Daryl Sutter said before the playoffs ever started, it would be a waste of 8 days. And it kind of was in a sense, but still good experience for some of those Predators players who may not have had that opportunity before. But we're going to talk about the Preds here coming up shortly in a few minutes, and we'll see what the future holds for them. The Penguins put an absolute beatdown on the Rangers last night. SJSTerritory was pulled again, a 7-2 victory. The Rangers had no pushback in a pretty much what you'd call a must-win game, being down 2-1. I mean, it's not really a must-win because they're not eliminated, but it's the next best, closest thing. And I was really shocked with the effort from the Rangers last night. They were just not cohesive at all. Like, the mistakes on defense were just bad. And then, of course, up front, they were just not getting enough pucks to the net, trying to be too cute. And I don't know. I'm really shocked over that series. I'm not surprised Pittsburgh's winning. I'm just surprised that they're winning 3-1 and that they were able to win so handily. I would have thought more of an effort of the Rangers would have been what we'd see. I guess we'll see how they respond to this big hole that they've dug themselves into here. The Panthers came back with a late comeback victory over the Caps to tie that series 2-2. It was a 2-1 Capitals game getting late in the third period. Coach Andrew Burnett decided to be a tad on the aggressive side and pull the goalie with a little bit over 3 minutes to play. Then they scored the tying goal not too long after from Sam Reinhart on a bit of a fluke play. Not long before that, of course, the Capitals had a chance to put the empty netter in, and Garnet Hathaway just barely missed and just nicked the outside of the net going by. I know the big debate today, should he have shot at the open net? Should he have just chipped it out? And I know years back, the remarks would have been that to go for the empty net is selfish, and that you should just make the safe play and dump it down the ice, but don't ice it or just get it to the neutral zone. And now today, a lot of coaches don't tell you that. Based on statistics and analytics that they analyze, they tell you that 8 to 9 times out of 10, they're going to hit that empty net and the game is going to be over, and they expect them to go for it. That is what coaches are teaching them now. So it's not like he really did a dumb move or did something that his coach is going to be upset about. It just so happens that he just barely missed by a matter of a little fraction here, and like a little bit more to the right, and it could have been posted in. So unfortunately, the Panthers survived, tied it up, went to overtime, where Carter Verhaeghe scored a goal, only I think it was 4 minutes and something in to win the game, tie the series up. So we'll see if that gives the Panthers any momentum moving forward, but they've certainly shown that they're, as much as they've been an exciting team this year and put up a lot of really good points and great, goal totals, etc., that they're still an inexperienced, immature team in a sense when it comes to learning how to win in the playoffs and how to defend and things like that. We'll see how they can pull through this against the Capitals. Now, the Flames come back with a 4-1 win last night. It was nice to see Matthew Tkachuk focus a little bit more on hockey. We saw a Johnny Gaudreau penalty shot as well. They have a 4-1 win to tie that series up. Jake Ottinger's still been an amazing beast back there for Dallas. If it wasn't been for Ottinger, that would have been a much bigger spread last night, and I would dare say that the Flames would have a series lead right now instead of it being tied. He's been absolutely phenomenal, been outplaying the Vezina nominated goalie on the other end, Jacob Markstrom, which says a lot. And they've got a lot to look forward to between the pipes and the Dallas organization with Jake Ottinger. That is for certain. Now, in the last segment here, I want to take a look at the Predators and Filip Forsberg. Is he done in Nashville? Is there any chance he's going to re-sign? I know back a number of weeks ago before the deadline, it was being reported that the Predators and David Poile were very likely going to keep Forsberg even if they didn't get a contract done before the deadline, because A, they were confident they were going to be able to, B, they were pretty confident they were going to be making the playoffs, so they wanted him to be a part of that. Obviously, taking a 40-goal guy out of the lineup and moving on from him right before the playoffs would weaken the team, and now here we are. They're eliminated 4 straight. Forsberg didn't really do much of anything in this series, so as much as he had a great regular season, he didn't have a good playoff, and I do wonder if he's dealing with injury or something. We'll probably find that out here in the next couple of days. But at the end of the game, after they did the handshake line, the Predators were obviously kind of waving to the fans, and he stayed on the ice extra long, did an extra lap around waving bye to the fans. Sometimes media people read too much into that stuff, but I've seen it numerous times, and it hasn't always been the case, but a lot of times it has been that I get the impression that he may not be back, or at the very least, it's fair to say that he is not sure he's going to be back. He might want to be back, but will he? It's debatable. Listening to Jeff Merrick and Elliot Friedman talk about this on the Jeff Merrick show today, that's kind of their conclusion was now they actually have some doubts. And if you think, Elliot Friedman said, if you think about it, well ahead of the deadline, they talked negotiations on a contract extension. They went hard at it, had a lot of good dialogue, a lot of tough negotiations, never came to an agreement. As the deadline inched closer, Nashville needed to make a decision. Do we sign him? Do we trade him? Do we not? They went in another run at him, tried again, negotiated hard, had lots of conversations. Nothing happened. So obviously that tells you that they're still a ways apart on negotiations. And Friedman's also reporting that, which I wasn't aware of until today, or at least I don't recall hearing it if I did, that they did negotiate again, even post-deadline, ahead of the playoffs. During that stretch of time there before the playoffs started, they talked and they negotiated some more. They still never got a deal. That's 3 different times they've made a run at this, and the Predators are falling short. So I don't know what Filip Forsberg is looking for. I mean, it was at one point reported that he was looking for probably to stay in Nashville, likely an 8-year deal, likely going to be around $8 to $9 million. And that was before we knew he was going to be a 40 goal scorer. I mean, he's 27 years old, had a career season, which I know teams need to be cautious of because it happens a lot that they have a career year during a contract year, then they get this ridiculous contract, and then they decline way faster than the signing team ever thought they would. I mean, it's happened way too many times, so I know Poile needs to be cautious of that for sure. But I know there's also an article today in The Athletic from Adam Vingan talking about the Predators, saying that ownership really needs to respond here because, I mean, they're pretty much a hands-off ownership team, and they have a group of owners there, and they really just let David Poile run things, and they seem like he never gets questioned on his decisions. Apparently, David Poile has a contract as well that automatically renews, which we didn't know. That was mentioned in this article, too. That was confirmed by ownership, according to the author here, Adam Vingan. So it sounds like, as much as David Poile, I have a lot of respect for him. He's been in the league a long time, extremely long-term general manager. But at some point, you got to answer to somebody, and somebody has to come along and be like, hey, this isn't working. We need to do something different. So, where are the Predators at? Do they signing Forsberg or not is going to be pivotal here. But the author makes a good point, saying that if you look at this team and you say, listen, okay, we had 2 40-goal scorers this year, both having career seasons. We have a record-setting defenseman, Roman Josi, putting up the biggest point totals in, 20 years or something crazy, that he just came shy of 100 points. Like, absolutely hit it out of the park this year. Like, that's insane. Probably going to be the Norris Trophy winner or the runner-up with Cale Makar. Like, it's down to those two for sure, right? So, we got 2 40-goal scorers in Johansson and Forsberg, or not Johansson, Matt Duchene, and Forsberg. And then you got Josi with the season he had. You get Tanner Janelle, who is basically one of the surprise players this year in the rookie conversation. He's not going to win Rookie of the Year, but early on he was one of the more, guys more higher up in the conversation, we'll say, but certainly had a solid rookie year in the conversation for the Calder Trophy. He'll probably be in the top 6-7 players and mentioned on the ballot. And you get UC Saros, who's a Vezina nominated goaltender now, having a phenomenal season. Now, I know he didn't play in the playoffs, but Connor Ingram gave him some good games. Like, Riddick didn't do well at all. He lasted one period, but Ingram was real solid. Could Saros have been a little better? Sure, that's possible. I don't think it would have made any difference, though. But if you look at all that, you've got all these players that are phenomenal seasons and all-stars in their own right, or nominated for top trophies. 3 players in conversations for trophies, and then you got 2 guys that were, even a little ways off, obviously, but, still, if you look at the Calder or the Rocket Richard Trophy for most goals, obviously Matthews gets that. We're having, over 60, but then obviously 40 is great, but it's nowhere near 60. But still, you look at the top goal scorers in the league, like, that's not that far down the list. But yet the Predators barely made the playoffs and are nowhere near the Avalanche. So it just goes to show you that when it comes to the elite teams, like, it's a major, major gap. So this team has been sputtering really ever since it made the final and lost to the Penguins in 2017. They have not won a playoff series. There was a lot of people thought that last year in the offseason there was going to be more change, like Johansson, Duchene. A lot of guys were exposed in the expansion draft. A lot of guys outperformed this year compared to what they were expected. So, you got to wonder, can they sustain that? Can Matt Duchene score 40 goals again next year? Will Roman Josi be close to a 100-point defenseman? That's tough to duplicate. If they regress a little bit, which as good as they are is reasonable to think, and if they do happen to lose Forsberg, they could be in serious trouble to really fall down the standings. And obviously, the ownership has to respond and take this team in a different direction, is what the author's kind of saying. It's time for David Poile to have more of a responsibility to answer to somebody. Not saying that it's not completely like trashing Poile or anything like that. Obviously, it acknowledges that he's a long-time respected executive, done a pretty good job overall, but it's just, it's time to have some serious conversations and change this year. And will Forsberg be there? You got to have your doubts. Like, we've seen numerous players, whether or not you see them skate around an extra lap or two and wave at the fans, or whether or not they pick up the game puck from their final game. Like, there's little cues that you can pick up on that makes you think, geez, maybe they're done here, and you don't know. And then you find out later that was it. So it's a possible clue that he's concerned, at the very least, I'm very, very uncertain that he could be back. And with all those negotiations they've done, even though the word was that they're probably going to sign him after, they haven't been able to. And if they lose him, that's some serious potential. Now, where could he end up? Could he go to teams like the Flyers or the Islanders? They're certainly retooling, trying to get better quickly for next year. So they'll have some money to spend if they can make the right moves here to unload some salary. You've got New Jersey's looking to be aggressive and spend. Carolina's got a couple of contracts like Niederreiter and Trocheck coming off the books. So they might be looking to spend. You get the Kraken, who still has a lot of flexibility cap-wise. You get the LA Kings, who are another top 6 forward away from maybe taking another big step as well. Of course, his buddy Victor Arvidsson's there from last year being traded, which we know he wasn't thrilled about as well. So, those are some potential destinations. No guarantee, that's just an opinion. But still, Forsberg's not going to have any shortage of suitors if he hits free agency. And it's time for the Predators to make some hard decisions this offseason, I think, and determine which direction this team is going. But it's got to do something, whether or not it's change in Poile or change in direction or something. Something's got to give here. So let me know what you think down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.